India-Canada stalemate continues. Tensions flared between India and Canada early this week following Trudeau's explosive allegations of potential involvement of Indian agents in the killing of Khalistani extremist Nijjar on his country's soil on 18 June in British Columbia. Now, Dr. Zafar Javed, President Baloch Human Rights Council of Canada, has written to Prime Minister Trudeau questioning why no action against Pakistan on Karima Baloch's murder when Canada acted so promptly when it came to Nijjar killing. Remember, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau said that Canada shared evidence of credible allegations on Nijjar's killing with India many weeks ago. Meanwhile, responding to Canada's statement, MEA went on to say that no specific information has been shared with India by the Canadian side and that India is very much willing to look into any information that's provided.
In regards to India, Canada has shared the credible allegations that I talked about on Monday with India. We did that many weeks ago, and we are there to work constructively with India, and we hope that they engage with us so that we can get to the bottom of this very serious matter.
India Today's Anisha Mathur is reporting from Canada and visited one of Canada's oldest gurdwaras in Brampton, where a parade was taken out showing former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's assassin as heroes. This is the same gurdwara where in July Khalistan referendum was organized. Anisha sends us this ground report.
I'm currently outside the Gurdwara Singh Sabha at Malton in the Greater Toronto area of Brampton. This is one of the oldest gurdwaras on the east coast of Canada, and this is also the place where in July a referendum on Khalistan with more than 42,000 Sikhs gathering had happened. This is also the place where the protest march against the Indian government had started, ending at the Canadian consulate in the Toronto city. Even today, the langar hall of the area of this particular Gurdwara has photos of Bhindranwale and other Khalistani terrorists displayed proudly as martyrs. The question really now is, how exactly are the Indian and Canadian governments going to handle the deep-rooted fissures when it comes to the Sikh community here in Canada? At the Malton Gurdwara, this is Anisha Mathur for India Today.
Amidst rising tension between India and Canada, India Today spoke to Ottawa MP Yasir Naqvi. Listen in.
First of all, as a Liberal Party MP, somebody who's intimately connected to the Indo-Canadian community as well, what kind of an impact are we seeing about the current crisis on the community?
We in Canada are, as members of the Indo-Canadian community, are very close-knit. It doesn't matter whether we come from Hindu faith or Sikh background or Muslim or Christian. The fact that all of us are from South Asia, whether we're from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, we have very close ties because we share the culture, we have very similar values. We really look after each other as a community. We attend each other's holidays and festivals. We are close family friends, and that bond is extremely important.
Any chance that the Canadian government would take action against statements that are coming in from the SFJ, people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu and others? Again,
those are the decisions that will be determined by law enforcement agencies, and we as politicians do not tell our police services how to act.
As a politician who's working in the community here in Brampton, do you see any impact of the statement, particularly the kind of statements Mr. Pannu had made about Hindus, about Indians? What kind of an impact are you seeing on them?
Again, we denounce any hateful statements towards Hindus, towards any identifiable group. Everybody has the right to be fully protected, be able to practice their faith as they faith in a peaceful manner. And my job as a member of Parliament always to make sure that we continue to build an inclusive, loving, and harmonious society.
Just one last question, sir. What about the future of the Indo-Canadian ties? As currently, diplomatically, things seem to be not resolving?
Well, I'm confident that we will come to a peaceful conclusion to this challenging time. The most important thing is that we have very strong people-to-people ties between Canada and India, because we have such a large Indo-Canadian South Asian diaspora who lives in Canada. We have strong family ties, we have strong business ties, and we'll continue to make sure that we not only look after each other, that these challenging time does not let us divide ourselves, regardless of which faith we come from, but also be able to stay in contact with various South Asian countries that we also call home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anisha Mathur also spoke to senior Canadian journalists Vikram Chaudhary and Jaideep Singh on the current diplomatic row between India and Canada. Herein.
We're speaking to Mr. Jaideep Singh, a senior journalist and chief editor of the Canadian Times. So thank you for speaking to India today.
Thank you.
Now, we're seeing a lot of fissures which seem to be coming not only from the current diplomatic and standoff, as well as the death of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, but also seem to have some sort of a historical perspective. As a senior journalist in Canada, as somebody who's deeply involved in both the Sikh and Hindu communities, how do you see this particular crisis that our two countries seem to be facing right now?
This is, I think, the most unfortunate thing which has really happened. The most unfortunate part was the killing of Mr. Nijjar also.
Okay.
Though he represents the little extreme side of the Khalistani movement as such, but 99% of the Sikhs living in Canada, or even in India also, they don't support such narrative.
Okay.
They are of the view that India is part of their whole domicile, and they have paid a lot of they have done a lot of contribution and paid sacrifices for the independence of India. Killing of Mr. Nijjar here is absolutely unacceptable.
Okay.
The Canadian government, what Mr. Trudeau said in the Parliament the other day, and before going to G20 also, he shared the intelligence reports of the Canadian intelligence agencies with the head of the nations and with the people concerned with this. And if they are pointing out that the Indian intelligence agencies were behind this, of killing of a Canadian citizen on the Canadian soil, this is most unfortunate. And no country is going to accept it, whether he is right or wrong.
Doesn't India have justification to be concerned when there are, very recently we saw Sikh groups here, the Khalistani groups here holding a referendum about the Khalistan demand. We saw this kind of threats against the diplomats. We've seen a lot of statements coming from organizations like the SFJ and others.
You know, if you give a lot of credence to all these people who don't constitute even 1%, and you'll find these people everywhere, in every community.
So you're saying these people don't have community support?
They don't have a bit of a community support. You know,
so
people,
why is it that these referendums that happened just a few weeks ago in Toronto, even in Vancouver, saw such a huge gathering?
Because they will do what they are practically doing it from the last so many years. If you take the Hindu referendum in India, that they are the Bajrang Dal or any other Dal for a Hindu Rashtra, or even in the Muslims, the jihadis, you know, you will find such people in any community. We should not get into all this, and we should be getting into something very serious, talking to people like them and bringing them on board. It is a failure of the Indian diplomacy and even the Canadian diplomacy also, you know.